Hello, I'm Jane Fonda. I've never believed in accepting the definitions and limitations that other people imposed on me, and neither do the 7 women in the show that you're about to see. Society labels them handicapped, but they don't buy that. They've turned their disabilities around and taken charge. This project began as an acting workshop and grew into the program that you're about to see. Real people telling their real stories with music, with dance, with laughter. Well, I'm not going to give it away, but I think you may be about to see something that will forever change the way you view yourself.
I broke my neck at 21. Yes, I drive a car. No, I cannot dress myself. It takes someone an hour.
Yes, I went to school and I can type and write and spell. Paid my taxes, got a job. I used to answer questions very well.
Who puts me to bed? Somebody paid for by the state. Can I have a baby? Yes, but can I get a date?
Where does my sensation end? It doesn't. I'm so tired of questions now. At 21, I wasn't. Now I'm a woman. The only answer I can give, the only answer that you need to really know me as I am a woman.
My needs exceed demand. I'm wanting too much from a man. And when he gives me what he can, I often miss it.
The first time I realized I was different, I was about 3. It was Easter. I wanted a pair of little white gloves, but my mom said for that, I needed fingers.
The first time I realized I was different, I had just started kindergarten. I tried to run across the playground and crashed into bikes and toys and other kids.
The first time I realized I was different, I woke up and the sun was coming through the window and I couldn't move.
I want a lover and a friend. We'll watch our kids begin again. Someone to keep away the cold. Familiar eyes as I grow old.
My children's pain is mine. Don't want to leave the world behind without some kind of sign that I was here and made a difference.
I used to think disabled people were all those cripples you have to feel sorry for. I'd never be like that.
I used to think disabled people were weird and that they were creeps. I'm ashamed, but that's the way I felt.
I always thought disabled people were just like everybody else.
Throw off the mask, no need to hide. We'd all be loved from deep inside. That way we all might learn to touch and teach each other how to trust. I'm just a woman. I am a woman. Boy, people who roll around in noisy electric machines? People who don't have all their arms and legs? Pretty trippy. That's what I used to think. That is, of course, before I joined the ranks. And this is one army nobody enlists in. My notice came at the end of a pier at the lake out back of my friend's house. I remember hesitating before I dove in. I went 1, 2, 3, about 4 times. I don't know, maybe some part of me knew that I wasn't going to be coming out of that lake the same. When I was in the hospital, I remember asking a friend, I said, do I just look like a person sitting in a chair? He said, oh, you mean instead of a real cripple? And I said, yeah. And he said, you look like Patty Duke rehearsing a movie for being a quadriplegic. And I said, oh, thank God. I didn't want the social leprosy that seems to go along with being in a wheelchair. Well, I never did like labels before, so I'm not buying my end of the stigma. And maybe after tonight, we can convince you to stop buying yours.
Peggy the child, raised by her loving but protective Aunt Jethrin. Peggy, who was born with brittle bones, one day made the decision to leave her family in Canada and found herself arriving at the airport in Los Angeles. Peggy, the child, was becoming Peggy, the independent woman.
Peggy, slow down. You're making my head spin. Now, what kind of ideas are you getting?
The next step was the hotel. The first thing I wanted to do was take a shower. But I realized with horror
That you couldn't. You needed the special chair in your shower back home.
Then I saw it. The plastic chair on the terrace. You know, the kind that crisscrosses so the water can run through. I got the chair into the shower, and darn if it wasn't a perfect fit. The next thing I knew, I was adjusting the faucet
You could have fallen.
I didn't.
You could have burned yourself.
I didn't.
You could have hit your head.
I didn't.
Don't be a fool, Peggy. Taking a shower is not growing up.
Being dirty is.
You're going 3,000 miles away. Who's going to help you? You don't know anyone there.
But I could meet new people. Maybe I could even meet a man. Well, okay, not Prince Charming the first time, but a date wouldn't be such a terrible thing. I could find an apartment. I'd put my beanbag on the bed, and I'd paste snapshots all over the bathroom mirror. Well, okay, the door would have to be wide enough. I'd need to make some adjustments, but I can.
Don't you love me anymore? We need each other. We've been a pretty good team so far.
Oh, I could get a special van, and then I could drive all over. I could take the Hollywood Freeway to the Santa Ana Freeway to the Santa Monica Freeway to the San Diego Freeway, and then the Glendale Freeway and the Golden State Freeway and the Pasadena Freeway and the Ventura Freeway. Oh, I'm just when I can. And I did. I was born in Ecuador, and I got polio when I was 8 months old. At age 2, we moved to America. By the time I was 12, I'd been living in a hospital for 10 years. My parents didn't speak English, so they kept signing release forms for operations with no idea of what was really being done to me. By the time I was 8, I spoke English quite well, so I started asking a lot of questions about all my surgeries. I saw that the doctors didn't really know what they were doing. They were just practicing new procedures on me. Yes, I wanted to walk. I wanted to be a, quote, normal person. But the operations were always so painful. And the last one was really the final outrage. I remember lying on the table and seeing this knife come at me. I had to make a noise into the mask to let them know that I was still awake. When I woke up from that surgery, my father was standing beside me, and I told him, "Papi, no more surgeries, please. I'm not gonna walk, but it's okay. I just want a life outside these hospital walls, and I'll make it the best life I can. I have no regrets."
I hated gym. First, they made you wear these little shorts so that everybody could stare at your legs. And every day, they picked the teams.
Are you going to get her this time?
We got her last time. It's your turn.
Then the game began. The ball came towards me.
Hit it, Vicky.
That was an easy one.
Oh, great. You just lost us the game.
And I thought to myself, I'll show you. You think I can't move? At home alone in my room, I practiced my ballet in front of the mirror. It's very tricky how you hold your arm in ballet. This muscle's rotated back, and this muscle's rotated forward, and the hand is relaxed, but not limp. And when you go down, you think up. And when you go up, you think down. It's very deep. And then I put on a long dress, and when I turn, it follows me and falls.
Vicky, how long are you going to be up there? You can't stay in your room forever.
What they don't know is I'm working on my routine. I'll give them something to stare at. I've got my head. I've got my shoulders. I've got my chest and arms and hands. I'll break their hearts at 40 feet. And then they'll cry, but she's not disabled. And I'll say, oh, yes, I am. And I'm just as good as you.
Yeah, right.
For me, the teen years were the worst. I'll never forget finding out that the boys called me lobster claws behind my back. Those were the years I spent trying to make everyone else feel comfortable, telling jokes at my own expense.
Everybody works so hard to make the other person feel at ease. You want us to know that you don't mind that we're disabled. We want you to know that we don't mind that you're not.
You feel so awkward. You don't know what to do. Well, how are you supposed to know what to do?
Oh, I used to put on the Nancy Fabulous show for anybody who'd listen. You know, just keep them laughing so they wouldn't feel so sorry for you. Oh, don't you wish that you could be disabled? Don't you think that everybody should? With everyone assuming you're not able, you'd never be expected to be good.
Wouldn't you just love to be disabled? Everybody thinks you have a hex. Think of all the quiet times that you could have. No one's ever bugging you for sex.
Wouldn't you just love to answer questions from every little monster on the block? What happened to your leg? How'd you get that way? I tell you, it's enough to drive an atheist to pray.
Sometimes I wish that you could be disabled, so you know how it feels.
It was the day before the gymnastics competition, and I had worked for months on my routine. You see, I didn't want anyone to think that I was blind. And then the principal came into the gym.
Martinez, I hear you're planning to compete tomorrow.
Uh-oh. I knew what was coming.
I'm afraid you can't be in the meet.
Why? Insurance. I was crushed. Today, I could take him to court. But then, there was no legislation protecting people with disabilities.
The rest of the team went to bat for Kathy. They did research, gathered statistics, but
I couldn't compete all year.
Finally, they found a legal loophole. The principal had to let Kathy compete.
But it wasn't the same. All that lack of belief does something to you. And all those battles wear you down. And your energy goes into the fight, not the skill you want to develop.
I always wanted to be a TV news reporter, so I went to school and I learned my craft, but I couldn't get a job. I figured it was the shape of my hands that was keeping me and my television career at arm's length. So I had these made, prosthetic gloves, rubber hands. I knew it was a compromise. It was like wearing a mask, and I'd always struggled to have people accept me the way I was. But I wore them, and I got a job. Then one day my boss came to me and said, "Bree, you're doing well, but you seem a little stiff on camera. Is it the hands?" I said, "Yes, it is." He said, "Then take the gloves off." I was relieved and terrified because in television, physical perfection seems so important.
okay, Bree, you're on the air.
Good evening. This is Bree Walker. This is Bree Walker.
If you could join us just for the day, you wouldn't have to change your name. You'd have two choices for your new image, but neither of them's you. Oh, what a shame.
Your competence suspected.
You're sexually neglected.
You'll never get elected.
With all those years protected.
You never be expected. How could you be expected? How could you be expected to be good?
Oh, romance. The sweet mysteries of life.
Yeah, everybody wants to know how we.
Or if we.
Even now, sometimes I catch myself thinking that I've got a good mind and a strong heart, but I don't feel like I can be sexy.
When I like a guy, I just come out with it. I say, "Do they neck where you come from?" I figure the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, but sometimes you gotta give nature a little helping hand. So when I meet a guy, I tell him, look, all you gotta do is just pick me up and carry me over to the bed and then squeeze me right.
Hold it. Whatever happened to leaving something to the imagination?
Imagination? That's all I had as a young girl. The first time I ever kissed someone, I mean really kissed someone, I was 21. I could never figure out if it took me so long because I had 17 years of Catholic girls' school or because my legs were weird. I can't tell you how many platonic relationships I had with men. I was the girl that understood what men really wanted. What they didn't understand was what I really wanted.
I guess I'm just old-fashioned. I still believe in meeting someone special and sweeping him off his feet and getting married immediately while he's still dazzled by my perfection.
When I got married, my husband's family wouldn't come to the wedding. They thought he'd be throwing his life away.
My husband told me he wanted a wife he could come up behind and hug while she was doing the dishes.
If you marry a disabled woman, everyone assumes you're a saint.
Or desperate.
No, I won't get cynical. I know I could make it work. I want to get married.
Do you take this woman to be your lawful wedded wife?
I do. You do? Are you nuts?
For richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health?
Watch out.
If anyone here knows a reason why these two should not be wed, let them speak now, or forever hold their peace.
Look, I don't want to spoil the party, but do you have any idea how this might work out?
On your honeymoon, he's thinking.
My friends say this is impossible, but I'm going to make it work.
On your first anniversary.
It's a lot of trouble, but she's got so much to offer.
Third anniversary.
I don't mind being the husband. I'm beginning to resent being the wife.
By the 5th year, he's thinking,
If I leave her, she'll never survive.
Then the 7-year itch. When he leaves, he swears.
It's not that I'm leaving her for somebody else.
Well, he tried his best, but it didn't work. And he feels rotten because he thinks he failed.
wait a minute, you guys. It isn't always that bad. My lover holds me and says, people look at us and think you're disabled. But they don't know how much I need you. Oh, it's difficult. All relationships are. And for us, just going out to breakfast can be such a hassle. Will there be curb cuts? Will the restaurant be accessible? Will the chair fit under the table? It's as if he becomes disabled by living with me. Sometimes he wishes he didn't love me. It would be easier that way. He's a very physical man, and it's hard for him to understand so much loss. It took a long time for me to accept that he loved me, all of me, body, heart, and soul. I'd been brainwashed too long, and I hated my body. But now, I see myself through his eyes, and I know I'm beautiful. And he taught me to move in ways my mama never did.
You can't survive without love. And when you can't find it outside, you've got to look within. I learned that from my great-grandmother. You see, after my kidney failed and I was rushed to the hospital, gangrene set in, and they had to amputate my limbs. And some of the doctors and nurses had given up on me. And there was this one night nurse from midnight to 6. One of her jobs was to turn the special bed I was in, but she resented being there. Well, one night she came in with whiskey on her breath, and the bed got stuck. And there I was, hanging in midair. It was like being caught upside down on a Ferris wheel. And I said to myself, Celeste, if you want to survive this, you've got to take control of the situation. So I started talking to the nurse and telling her how the bed worked, and I talked real slow. And finally, she got it fixed right. And then I noticed that for the first time, she looked at me as if she really saw me. It was a small victory, but it meant a lot to me.
In the rehab hospital, a psychologist told me that romance would have to mean less, that work would have to mean more, and that religion would have to take on a greater significance in my life. I vowed to prove him wrong. I was determined that the same woman who went into that hospital was the same woman who was coming out. You know, you're going to think this is nuts, but becoming disabled is a marvelous thing to go through, even if a lot of it is hideous. It's a privilege, really, like an odyssey to hell and back.
You know, if everybody could do it and come out able-bodied, I'd really recommend it. Because once you've become disabled, you can't be on automatic pilot anymore. You can't be a human pinball batted around by other people's expectations. Because let's face it, who wants the expectations they give disabled people? Would you? I mean, we've been kicked out of the Pepsi generation, and we don't have the look you want to know better. You know, I'm not crazy about being disabled, but I like the way it shook up my life. It was a cherry bomb. You know, I'd like to take a cherry bomb right now and throw it at the wall between us. Oh, it's not so scary. Nothing on our side of the wall, but a lot of kind of wonderful people, just like you, if you would stop being such sissies. You know what Helen Keller said about risk? She said, security is mostly a superstition. Life is either a daring adventure or it's nothing. We think she's right.
I'm a woman, the only answer I can give, the only answer that you need to really know me as I am. I am a woman.
I am a woman.
The children in shopping centers always ask, "What's wrong with your legs?" Do you know what I say to them? I tell them I'm a mermaid.